Hey, hello again. Today we are here to discuss about the Databricks Compute. Uh, Databricks Compute refers to a selection of computing resources available in Databricks Workspace. I will let you know in simple words, let's get into whiteboard. Databricks cluster is nothing but a Spark cluster. As you all know, in Spark cluster, there will be master node. Uh, then cluster manager will be there, and in turn there will be a worker nodes, correct? So, so it's just a setup of that, and today we will be seeing about this. And here majorly we have two types, that is all-purpose cluster and job compute cluster. As you can see here, we have majorly two types of cluster. One is all purpose and job compute. All purpose is useful for uh, generally it is useful for interactive notebooks in where you don't want to stop the cluster, or the cluster should be live. On your comfort, you can stop and resume the cluster, and then you would be able to restart the cluster as well if it has got terminated after some idle time. And then comes the job compute cluster. Job compute cluster especially useful for like workflows in where the job compute cluster will be alive for that particular activity. After then, the cluster will be terminated. So this is about majorly the two types of cluster what we have. One is the all-purpose compute and one more is the job compute cluster. So as you can see here, there are two types, and there are other things as well, like SQL warehouse and pools, policies. These are the extended functionalities for the compute. We will discuss that, and let's get into the Databricks workspace with the community edition. If you are not aware how to create the community edition or something like that with respect to database, you can access the playlist Databricks playlist. Just go to YouTube and search for Muvi Data Lab, and you just type in Databricks playlist 2025. You can just easily enter into our playlist. And here, check out the first two videos, like exploring Databricks workspace and introduction to Databricks for data engineers. This would be sufficient to understand how we can create a community edition and what all the things will be present in the workspace. So, coming back. So as I was saying, all-purpose compute is used for interactive notebooks, and some features I explained to you. And let's try to create a compute. Initially, it will be the default name which will be given on the account. So let's name it as Spark cluster itself. And Databricks runtime version you have to select. And it is recommended that to select LTS only. And then, as you can see, you are having ML support as well, ML cluster. And but we need for data engineering tasks only standard cluster. So, other few configuration you can set up and just click on create compute, and it will take some time to create the compute and load it. In the meanwhile, let's explore the other cluster what we have. As you can see, catalog space and cluster, it has the runtime version of 12.2 and 15.4 as such. And you can see like active memory and active cores when the cluster is live. And then your creator account will be visible here, who has created. And also you can filter the clusters by selecting created by whom you. Let's say you want to select only Srivasa at gmail.com. So at that time you can filter it by like this. Or you can search particular user over here. Or you can search the compute as well as here. So next, the notebook we can terminate by here as well. But since it is a community edition, once you terminate, you cannot restart it. So and once it is terminated as well, like after some idle time, like 1 hour by default, you cannot resume as well or restart as well or start as well. Both cannot be done. The only thing you can do is you can clone the existing cluster. You can just click on clone. It's the same cluster which we configured, and we can just do the create compute to create it. I'll be giving the cancel now. And also one more thing is you can delete the cluster, which is already got terminated. Let's get into one existing cluster. In the meanwhile, it is taking a much time to setting up the node. And in the meanwhile, let's get into one of the cluster which is already terminated. You can see that few details here. What is the Spark configuration and PySpark Python environment variable like Python 3 is getting used here. And you can see that two cores are given in the community edition to work with. And the notebooks which are getting used, you can see that here. You can see the notebooks getting used here. And libraries which are by default available, you can generally see it, but since it is a community edition, not see it. But if you want to install something like, you can use PyPy package here and write the command for that, and you can see the sample simple JSON equal to 3.8.0. You can just get the relevant version for your specific notebook or workspace. So, but this is like install library is for the this one, like for the cluster level. So, wherever the in the notebook, whichever the notebook, if you use this cluster, this package will be available. So, likewise, similarly, we have Maven to include, DBFS to include. Likewise, we have few things under the library. Event log. Event log, as you can see, when it was created, like 24/11/2024, it was created and it was running. The driver was healthy, and it got terminated after like 11:59, uh, based on the compute terminated reason is inactivity. Since it was not used, the cluster was automatically terminated after 60 minutes of inactivity. You can get this in JSON format as well. So yeah, even the creating, you can see like a number of worker nodes. Ah, yes. As I was explaining in the whiteboard, you are saying like there will be one master node and there will be multiple worker nodes. But here you might get the doubt that why the number of worker nodes is zero, correct? So since it is a community edition, you'll be having only like in the community edition, you'll be having only one node, which in turn acts as a master and worker node. So this is the thing. That's the reason it is saying as worker node as zero. So next coming with like you will be having like a Spark UI as well, but currently it is not available since the cluster is not up, and you will be having driver locks. Develops for are not currently accessible because it got terminated. Maybe that is the reason. And moreover, since it is a community edition, many features will not be available once it is got terminated. And here you can see like different lock types like standard out, standard error, log4j. Log4j, as you can, as you know, like it will be majorly used for Maven applications. And metrics you have here from here you can access, but for community edition it is not accessible. Apps are not available, are only available on the running computer, as you can see. And same goes to Spark UI Compute. And other options, you can see Vue.json, as I said, clone is also available, and also you can delete from here. Once again, like let's get back to the compute UI. Let's see whether it has created. Yes, as you can see, active memory 15 GB. So by default, Databricks company will provide you 15 GB of active memory for the exploring of Databricks workspace and notebooks and make some data pre-processing tasks and learn how the data engineering works. And DBU is the Databricks unit per hour is like is provided only one. And then you can see the source, notebooks, etc. here. And let's see how the live cluster will be looking like. Let's get into notebooks. Notebooks is empty since no notebook is getting used. Or no notebook is using this cluster. Spark UI. So since it is in pending state still, so the Spark UI is not available. Driver logs. So few other things are still not accessible because of Spark cluster is still spinning up. So in the meanwhile, okay, it is up now. So as you can see, status is green and cluster is running. So since it is up, let's get into the cluster and see few things which we couldn't able to see at a few time back. Event like as you can see, the creating and running is has been logged. Spark UI. So this is the Spark UI which I was speaking about. The jobs, stages, storage, everything can be viewed here. Even the environment can be seen here, like Java Home, which is the one which is getting used, and Java version, and all the default Spark configuration can be seen here. Spark app.name, Spark app.stattime. So Spark database.cloud provider. So by default, you will be getting the community edition through AWS. Uh, and then you can explore all these configurations. What is the cluster name? That is a Spark cluster, which we named it. And quite other configurations are there. It is going if you go through it, you would be able to figure it out what all the exact things we have here. And you can see that driver port is the 44277. This is the driver port which we are getting used. And then there have many other things, and you can see the SQL or data frame as well for the Spark UI. And then there is one more thing, Spark Compute UI Master. Currently, this corresponds to same because since we have only master and the worker nodes are same. So then we have few applications that is like Web Terminal and RStudio, like which can be made use since when you have the cloud provider for the database. So this is about all-purpose compute and job compute. As I said, you like it is like once you run it, the cluster will be terminated. It's especially used for workflows, and workflows is not available for the community edition. So let's get into the image which we were seeing. So in as I said, the few extensions are available like SQL warehouse, pools, and policies. So SQL warehouse, you can understand that it's a warehouse relate that is SQL warehouse. The word itself says. But pools and policies might be new thing to you, which we will see it. So pools is nothing but like you will be having like n number of clusters pooled together, like which like readily available clusters will be available. So whenever you want to make a data engineering task or something like that, you can just attach your notebook to the pool, and you will be getting one cluster, ready cluster, if it is available or freely available in the pool. So it would be there would be no waiting time. This is the major advantage of pools in cluster compute. And then you have seen policies. So policies is like very similar to auth like authentication authorization kind of thing. Here it corresponds to authorization. So it decides upon like which user have to access this what feature. Let's say like whether he has access for the worker nodes to select. Like you will be having once you get the cloud provider for the database, you will be having many options. Like you can decide how many worker nodes you want, or how many uh, memory you want for the processing of data engineering tasks, and how many cores you want to speed up the data engineering task. So these things will be readily available. So, but it will be available for the entire team. So, in order to control that, like only specific people should be able to access it. So that's the reason policies are created. So now the you just have to select the policy which is suggested, and the configuration will be auto-populated. So this is also one of the way to reduce the time for the creation of cluster just by selecting the policies as per the norms in the company for the particular team. So this was the extension about the compute what we have. And there is one more special thing in the Databricks that is called Photon. Photon is nothing but like it's like it's an add-on for the cluster what you have. If you enable like Photon is enabled by default on computing environment like 9.1 LTS and above. But so enable this, like it will be helpful for the especially for SQL notebooks. So Photons works basically based on the vector compute, just like columnar based of computing. So that's the reason it will speed up the SQL workbooks what you have inside in the workspace. So that will be really helpful when you are dealing with SQL notebooks and SQL warehouses. So this was the one special thing to mention. And this has one major limitation that is called structured streaming. Like Photon doesn't support UDF or RDD APIs, but here the structured streaming is major limitation here. Anyhow, the UDFs are like user-defined function that is generally not recommended for production. So UDF shouldn't be written as the production ready application, and Photon doesn't impact queries that normally run in under 2 seconds. So this is also not just major thing because Photon, like generally any query will not run under 2 seconds if you are handling the big data things. So when it comes to big data, it will generally take much time. So this can be reduced with the help of Photon enabling in your cluster compute. So when you are creating the configuration, you should be able to enable it if you are using below 9.1 LTS. But by default, after a 9.1 LTS, it is supported. So this was about the compute, and this was the overall about the Databricks playlist of what we have, and this helps you in understanding like overall about the Databricks, especially in the domain of data engineering. So I hope you liked the playlist and also this last session about the Databricks. So hope you liked it. Please don't forget to access the playlist to understand the entire Databricks thing, like which is especially in data engineering. So thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe the channel and keep liking the content. You would be getting the further more content about the Spark or software engineering thing. These content we will be uploading it. And don't forget to access the playlist. And I hope you liked it. Thank you so much.